September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's hand trembled as he closed his fingers around the pistol grip. $50,000. That was the bounty the 5 families had placed on Bumpy Johnson's head, and Sam Bumpy's bodyguard for 5 years. The man Bumpy called a brother had accepted the contract. The plan was simple. Walk into Lennox Lounge. Wait until Bumpy was distracted. 1 shot to the back of the head. Vanish into the night. Sam walked in. Bumpy sat at his table, back turned, exposed. Sam drew his gun, aimed, and pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. The room fell silent. Bumpy turned slowly, locked eyes with Sam, and spoke 5 words that would become legend. "I've been counting on you." What no one knew, what history books never mentioned, was that Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks, and what he did during those 3 weeks didn't just save his life. It permanently changed the balance of power in Harlem. To understand what happened that night at Lennox Lounge, you have to understand who Bumpy Johnson was in 1958. He wasn't just another gangster. He was Harlem's protector, the man standing between his community and those who wanted to destroy it. By the late 1950s, Harlem was under siege. The Italian mob, specifically the 5 families, had been trying for years to take control of the neighborhood's numbers racket. Numbers meant big money. Poor people betting nickels and dimes that added up to millions. The Italians wanted every dollar. But there was one obstacle: Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had built something the Italians couldn't comprehend. He didn't rule by fear alone. He ruled through respect. When Harlem families couldn't pay rent, Bumpy covered it. When police harassed black businesses, Bumpy made calls that ended it. When Italian mobsters tried to force their way into local operations, Bumpy pushed back hard. The 5 families tried everything. They sent enforcers. Bumpy sent them back in ambulances. They tried negotiations. Bumpy told them Harlem wasn't for sale. They bribed politicians. Bumpy had stronger connections. By 1958, the families were desperate, and desperate men make dangerous choices. Frank Costello, the most powerful mob boss in New York, called a meeting. All 5 families sent representatives. The subject was simple: the Bumpy Johnson problem. "We've tried force. We've tried money. We've tried politics," Costello said, his voice flat and cold. "None of it works. This man is untouchable. So what do you suggest?" asked Carlo Gambino, lighting a cigar. Costello leaned forward. "We make him touchable. We find the one person he trusts completely and we turn them." That's when someone mentioned Big Sam. Samuel, Big Sam Foster, had been with Bumpy since 1953. 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle and loyalty. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy twice. He was there when Bumpy's mother died. He stood beside him through wars with Dutch Schultz's old crew, through police raids, through everything. If anyone could get close enough to kill Bumpy Johnson, it was Big Sam. The families sent Tony, the collector, to make contact. Tony was a specialist. He didn't break legs or smash skulls. He found weaknesses, and every man had one. August 20th, 1958, 3 weeks before the attempted shooting. Big Sam was leaving his apartment on 132nd Street when a black Cadillac pulled up. The window slid down. Tony Maroney sat in the back seat, smiling like an insurance salesman. "Sam, right? Big Sam? I've heard a lot about you." Sam's hand moved toward his waistband, where he kept a .45. "Who's asking?" "A friend. Someone who wants to make you a very rich man." Tony motioned to the empty seat. 5 minutes. Hear me out. If you don't like what I say, you walk away. No hard feelings. Sam should have walked away, but curiosity is dangerous. He got into the car. Tony got straight to the point. "You're a smart man, Sam. You know how this works. You're loyal to Bumpy, and that's admirable. But loyalty doesn't pay your daughter's medical bills. Sam's jaw tightened. His youngest daughter, Kesha, had been sick with tuberculosis for 6 months. The treatments were costly. Hospital bills kept piling up. Sam had asked Bumpy for help, and Bumpy had given him $2,000, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Tony opened a briefcase. Inside were neatly stacked $100 bills. $50,000. That was the offer. Enough to pay every medical bill. Enough to move his family somewhere safe, somewhere clean, where his daughter could breathe. For what? Sam asked, though he already knew. One bullet. One moment. You walk into Lennox Lounge on September 12th. Bumpy will be there, like he always is on Friday nights. You wait until he's distracted. One shot to the back of the head. Quick. Clean. Then you disappear. We'll have a car waiting. New identities for your whole family. By morning, you'll be in Miami. By next week, you'll be someone else entirely. Sam stared at the money. $50,000. His daughter's life. His family's future. All for one pull of the trigger. And if I say no? Sam asked quietly. Tony's smile faded. Then your daughter dies slowly in that charity hospital ward. Then you keep working for Bumpy, watching your back every day, knowing that one day a bullet with your name on it is coming. Because that's how this life ends, Sam. You know it. I know it. The only question is whether you die, poor or rich. Sam got out of the car without saying a word, but the briefcase stayed with him. Tony had left it on the seat, the stacks of cash visible. Tempting. That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He kept seeing his daughter's face, her labored breathing, the way she tried to smile through the pain. He kept seeing the briefcase full of money, enough to save her, enough to give his family a real life. 3 days later, Sam made his choice. He called the number Tony had given him. I'm in, Sam said, but I want the money up front. Half now, half after. Tony replied. Welcome to the winning side. What Big Sam didn't know, what Tony didn't know, was that before Sam ever stepped into that Cadillac, Bumpy Johnson already knew about the approach. Bumpy Johnson didn't become the king of Harlem by trusting people. He became king by knowing people, by understanding that every man has a price. Every man has a weakness. Every man can be bought or broken. Bumpy had eyes everywhere. Bartenders, shoeshine boys, cab drivers, janitors, people nobody noticed. People the Italian mob never thought to watch. One of them was a parking attendant named Jerome. He had seen Tony Marone's Cadillac pull up outside Sam's apartment. He saw Sam get in. He wrote down the license plate. 2 hours later, Jerome was in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise Jazz Club. Tony Marone's car, Jerome said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. Parked outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed 5 minutes, got out. Bumpy looked at the paper, then at Jerome. You sure it was Marone? Positive. I've seen him before. Collects from the Italian joints on the east side. Bumpy stayed silent for a long moment. Then he opened his desk drawer, took out $500, and handed it to Jerome. You didn't see anything? You weren't there? Understand? Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. After Jerome left, Bumpy sat alone in his office for 2 hours, thinking. Sam had been with him for 5 years, good years, loyal years. They'd been through wars together. Bumpy had trusted him with his life. Now the Italians were in Sam's ear. And Bumpy knew one thing about desperate men. They make bad decisions. He could have had Sam killed immediately. One phone call and Sam would vanish into the East River. That's what most men in Bumpy's position would have done. Remove the threat. Move on. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't most men. Over the next 3 weeks, Bumpy watched Sam closely. He noticed the tremor in Sam's hands, the worry in his eyes. He saw a man trapped between loyalty and survival. And Bumpy made a choice. He wouldn't kill Sam. He would teach him. Bumpy called in a favor from a gunsmith in Brooklyn, man named Victor, who had been modifying firearms for him for 15 years. "I need you to make a gun that doesn't work." Victor was confused. "You want a broken gun?" "No. I want a gun that looks perfect, feels perfect, but when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. No bullet, no firing pin strike. Just a click. You want a dummy gun? A very convincing dummy gun. Can you do it?" Victor could. Within 3 days, he delivered a modified .38 special that looked identical to Sam's service weapon. Same weight, same feel, completely inoperable. The next step required precise timing. Bumpy needed to replace Sam's real gun with a dummy without Sam noticing. That meant getting into Sam's apartment while Sam was away. On September 8th, 4 days before the hit, Bumpy sent Sam on an errand across town. "I need you to pick up an envelope from a contact in the Bronx. It's important. Don't come back without it." The errand would take Sam at least 3 hours. Plenty of time. While Sam was gone, Bumpy and his most trusted associate, Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They found Sam's gun in a shoebox under the bed, exactly where Bumpy expected it to be. They swapped it with Victor's dummy gun. Sam would never know. Now, Bumpy had to wait. He had to let Sam make his move. If Bumpy confronted him before the attempt, Sam could deny everything. The Italians could find another traitor. The cycle would continue. No, Bumpy needed Sam to pull the trigger. He needed him to commit. And in that final betrayal, Bumpy would reveal the truth, not just to Sam, but to everyone in the room, to all of Harlem, to the 5 families. The message would be clear. You can't kill Bumpy Johnson, because Bumpy Johnson is always 3 moves ahead. September 12th, 1958, 11:47 p.m., Lenox Lounge. The club was packed. 300 people, musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, cognac, and conversations that shaped the neighborhood's future. Bumpy sat at his usual corner table with 2 city councilmen, discussing a new housing development in Sugar Hill. He wore a flawless gray suit. His fedora rested on the table beside an untouched glass of Hennessy. Big Him arrived at 11:30. He had been drinking not enough to be drunk, just enough to steady his nerves. In his jacket pocket was the .38 special he'd carried for 5 years. The gun he believed would make him $50,000 richer. Sam positioned himself near the bar, watching, waiting. Bumpy's back was turned, focused on conversation. Exposed at 11:47, Sam moved. He walked through the crowd, hand inside his jacket, gripping the pistol. No one noticed. Sam was always near Bumpy. He was the bodyguard. His presence was expected. Sam stopped behind Bumpy's chair, 6 feet away, then 4, then 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it first. His eyes widened, but before he could shout a warning, Sam had already aimed at the back of Bumpy's head and pulled the trigger. Click, the sound of the firing pin hitting. Nothing echoed through the suddenly silent room. The jazz band stopped mid-note. Conversations died mid-sentence. 300 people turned to see Big Sam standing with a useless gun in his shaking hand and Bumpy Johnson sitting calmly, not even flinching. Bumpy took a slow sip of cognac. Then he gently set the glass down and turned in his chair. He looked at Sam. Just looked at him. And in that look was something worse than anger. Disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy said quietly. Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet. In that moment, Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He had known everything, the approach from Tony Marone, the $50,000, the plan, all of it. Instead of killing Sam, instead of sending him into the river, Bumpy had let him walk into that room and pulled the trigger. Let him expose himself to 300 witnesses. Let him destroy his own name, his own honor, in front of the entire community. Sam's gun hit the floor. His legs buckled. He dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry, God," Sam said. "I'm sorry, my daughter. I know about your daughter." Bumpy interrupted. His voice was still calm, but it carried through the silent room. "I've known for 6 months. You think I don't take care of my people?" Bumpy reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He placed it on the table. "Kesha's medical bills, all paid this morning. There's also a check in there for $5,000 for your family, for whatever you need." Sam's eyes filled with tears. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to know," Bumpy said. "I needed to know if you choose money over loyalty, if you choose their 50,000 over our brotherhood." He paused. "Now I know." Bumpy stood up. He wasn't a tall man, barely 5'9", but in that moment he seemed 10 feet tall. "You're leaving Harlem tonight," he said. "You're taking your family, and you're disappearing. I don't care where. But if I ever see your face again, if I ever hear your name again, there will not be a second chance. Do you understand?" Sam nodded, tears streaming down his face. "And Sam," Bumpy added, his voice dropping even lower, "when the Italians ask what happened here tonight, you tell them exactly what you saw. You tell them Bumpy Johnson knew. You tell them he's always known. You tell them they can't buy loyalty in Harlem. And you tell them that if they ever try something like this again, I won't be this merciful." Sam stood on shaking legs, picked up his useless gun, and walked out of Lenox Lounge. He left New York that night and never returned. The last anyone heard. He was working construction in Detroit, a broken man carrying the weight of his betrayal for the rest of his life. After Sam left, Bumpy turned to the room. 300 people stared at him in silence. They had just witnessed the impossible. They'd watched a man try to assassinate Bumpy Johnson, and they'd watched Bumpy turn that assassination into a lesson. "Let me make something clear," Bumpy said, his voice reaching every corner of the room. "The Italians think they can buy us. They think they can divide us. They think they can take Harlem because we're poor, because we're black, because we don't matter." He lifted his cognac glass. "They're wrong. Harlem isn't for sale. It never was. It never will be. And anyone who thinks they can change that, anyone who thinks they can walk into my neighborhood and by my people, is going to learn what Big Sam just learned. We're not the ones who need protection. They are." Bumpy raised his glass to Harlem and to loyalty that can't be bought. 300 people raised their glasses to Harlem. The jazz band began playing again. Conversations resumed. Within minutes, it was as if nothing had happened, except everything had happened. Word of that night spread through New York's underworld like wildfire. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore had heard the story. Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. He had let it play out. He had forced the traitor to reveal himself in front of 300 witnesses, and he had done it without spilling a single drop of blood. The 5 families called an emergency meeting the next day. Frank Costello was furious not at Bumpy, but at Tony Marone for failing. Carlo Gambino saw something else. "We can't beat this man," Gambino said quietly. "We've tried everything. Force didn't work. Money didn't work. Turning his own people didn't work. Every time we move against him, he's already seen it coming. So what do we do?" Costello demanded. Gambino lit a cigar. "We leave Harlem alone. We focus on Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. Harlem belongs to Bumpy Johnson. Trying to take it will only cost us more money and more men." It was the first time the 5 families had ever backed down from a territorial dispute. They had no choice. That night at Lenox Lounge, Bumpy Johnson proved something. He wasn't just a gangster. He was a strategist or chess player who saw 10 moves ahead. And you don't play chess with a grandmaster unless you're ready to lose. The story of Big Sam's betrayal became legend in Harlem. People told it for decades, passing it down to their children and grandchildren. It became more than a story. It became a lesson about loyalty, about staying steps ahead, about what real power looks like. By the next morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore knew what had happened, and the 5 families made a decision they had never made before. They left Harlem alone. It was the first time the Italian mob backed down without a single shot being fired. Bumpy Johnson lived. Bumpy lived another 10 years after that night. He died in 1968 not from a bullet, but from a heart attack. Ironically, it happened in the same Lenox lounge where he had faced Big Sam. But here's the point. Bumpy proved something that night that most people miss. The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It's knowing what's coming before your enemy does. It's turning their plan into your win. It's playing chess while they're still learning checkers. Big Sam took $50,000 from the mob. He left New York with nothing but shame. And Bumpy, he went back to his corner table, finished his cognac, and continued being the king of Harlem. If this story got you hyped, do me a favor and hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We're dropping these Bumpy Johnson stories every day, and trust me, the next one is even crazier. Leave a comment and tell me, could Bumpy have handled this differently? Would you have let Sam walk away alive? And turn on notifications. Because next week, we're telling the story of how Bumpy Johnson walked into Lucky Luciano's office unarmed and walked out with the deal of the century. You don't want to miss it. Remember, in Harlem, respect wasn't given. It was earned. And Bumpy Johnson earned every single bit of it.